Hello. Welcome to Living Room Yoga. So I had posted yesterday asking what kind of practices people may feel may be supportive at this time, and I had a bunch of responses. Lots of requests for gentle, lots of requests for flow, lots of requests for restorative. So I thought that today we would do a gentle flow with some restorative at the end. So grabbing onto a blanket and a pillow. I have like a big long pillow, so you might want to use a pillow from your bed. But a cushion could work just as well. And so gathering what you need, and then taking a moment and looking around where you are. So I'm in my living room, and I've kind of cleared, you guys are seeing pretty clean landscape here, and I've pushed blankets and all sorts of other things to the other side of the room so it's out of the camera's view. But if you look around and you see like an errant sock or a ball of pet hair perhaps, or something that's going to keep kind of drawing your eye, maybe taking a moment to just pick that up and get it out of the way, just so we can have as distraction free of a practice as we like, as is possible at home. And then as we're ready, meeting in a comfortable seat. And you could sit anywhere that's comfortable for you. It doesn't have to look like what I'm doing. If your hips feel like they're a little tight or your low back feels a little sore, you could probably benefit from using a blanket underneath your hips or a pillow. So grabbing those if you think they would be supportive. And then taking a moment to let the eyes close down. Feel the weight of your hips on the earth. Feel the crown of the head floating up. And then picking the shoulders up towards the ears and letting them slide down the back. And taking a moment to notice what you can notice. So if you're home with other people, you may have people sneaking through the room to get drinks. You have the sounds of your house. You might hear cars going by, just noticing whatever's around you. Always going to be distractions. And then noticing what's underneath you, what's supporting you. Some yoga mat, perhaps you're on a rug, perhaps you're on a hard floor, hard surface. Just noticing that support beneath you. And then noticing the fabric of your clothing underneath your fingertips, or the way that it's falling on your body. And perhaps softening the muscles of the face, letting the jaw release. Just scrunching up the eyes or a space in between the eyebrows, letting that soften. And connecting with your breath in a way that makes sense for you. Maybe taking 4 inhales and exhales here. Taking as much time as you like to breathe in and as much time as you like to breathe out. And at the end of your 4th exhale, taking a pause to notice the response of your body to the breath. Just taking 4 deep inhales, 4 deep exhales. Noticing how you feel. If you like here, pausing to set an intention for your practice. Why are you on your mat this morning? What do you need? And then opening the eyes, coming back into wherever we are in our own space. And we'll come on to all fours. So coming into a tabletop pose, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And let's start by just finding a movement that feels good. So we're not going to do anything too fancy today. No, not reinventing the wheel. We're keeping it simple. And what you're doing doesn't need to look like what I'm doing. It doesn't need to look any particular way. Just feeling into your body. And maybe starting to notice the places that need a little stretch, that need a little movement. You know, I've been sitting a lot more than I normally do. So my hips and my shoulders are getting kind of tight. So movement feels good. Coming back to stillness and lifting the tailbone, letting the belly hang, pulling the heart through the arms, lifting the head. And then pushing the ground away, rounding the spine, dropping the tailbone. Thinking Halloween cat. And taking a couple more of those at your own pace. Nice. And then from here, bringing the left knee up to the outside of your hands. And you can sneak this right knee back as far as you like. Coming into a little bit of a lizard lunge. And maybe the hips shift side to side. If you feel like you have a little more energy today, maybe the back toes curl under and the back knee lifts, pushing the back heel to the end of the mat, away from the body. And then maybe the knee stays on the ground as we pick our hips up, shift them back in space. Or maybe the knee is lifted and we pick the hips up and shift them back in space. And then moving forwards and backwards at your own pace. Feeling free to wiggle into whatever you like. Knee stays just about over the front ankle. You know, there's all these fancy yoga poses, but nothing to me sometimes beats a lunge and a hamstring stretch. Next time you come back, pulling the toes up towards the shin, pushing this heel into the earth, and then pulling the leg back. I'm just noticing what that feels like. Sorry, there's a lot of animal hair in here. And then re-lunging, heel toe in this foot and maybe a little bit more. Making sure you feel pretty steady with the back foot. So maybe the back toes curl under and we'll come all the way up. So adjusting however you like to be. And then lifting the arms up overhead. Bending the elbows, maybe interlacing the fingers, bringing them right to the base of the skull, and then pushing the head back into the arms, widening your elbows and gathering the shoulder blades together. A little bit of a back bend. And notice if you feel wobbly, we pull the front hip back and the back hip forward. Create a little bit of stability there. And then releasing the arms, let's take the left finger towards the ground, or maybe the finger touches the ground, and the right arm is going to come in a big circle. Noticing your breath. Next time that right hand comes down towards the earth, bring that finger down, and the left arm comes in circles. Nice. And then both arms come up. Taking the right hand to the outside of the left knee, left hand comes to the hip, and then turning your torso. Maybe your gaze turns back. Maybe the arm starts to open up. And coming back too. Coming all the way back, bringing the hands down to the outside of that front foot. curl the back toes under, lift the back knee, and we'll step back, finding a down dog. And if you're not at down dog today, maybe it's tabletop, maybe it's child's pose, but bending the knees, if that feels good. Maybe giving your head a shake. Not really worrying so much how it looks or about alignment. Just noticing what you feel. And then pulling the wrists over the shoulders, coming into a high plank. Knees come down, big toes come together, knees slide apart. Walk the hands back so your hips come close to your heels. And then coming down into a child's pose. And maybe child's pose is arms out in front. Maybe you stack the arms, or maybe you have the arms alongside the body. So picking which one feels good. Big breath in, big breath out. Bringing the hands out in front, pushing up through a tabletop pose. And then let's take the opposite leg forward. So that's the right leg. Yep. And same thing on this side. Left knee comes back as far as you like. And then shifting around. And feeling into the hip, feeling into the knee. You can take that option if you feel like you have a little more energy today. Maybe the back toes curl under, and we lift that back knee. Nice. And then picking up the hips, shifting them back in space, straighten the front leg. So if you're lifted with the back knee, it's going to look like pyramid pose. If you're down, you might just come back. And then moving forwards and backwards at your own pace. And again, this is not an exact practice. This is an individual practice. So just noticing what you feel. Next time you're back in that hamstring stretch, pull the toes up towards the shin, push the heel down, and then pull that leg back like you're going to wrinkle up your mat. I do this stretch so often. I always tell my students, and every time I'm like, how are you still tight? Buddy, what's going on back there? Every time I feel it. And then re-lunging, curling the back toes under, finding a little bit of stability, maybe energizing the feet towards each other, like if you had a magnet in your front heel and your back foot, and then coming up, whew, wobbly, to a little lunge. Arms up overhead. This time, as we interlace the fingers and bring it behind the head, we're going to lean the head back. And then imagine you can make like a figure 8 with your elbow. Let's say with the right elbow. We're just going to take, whew, very balancing, the whole body through. A little bit of movement. Coming back to neutral. Right fingertip comes down either to the floor or near the floor. Left arm comes up. And we draw some big circles. Next time that left arm's by the floor, left fingertip comes down. Right arm comes up. Coming all the way back up through that lunge. Taking the left hand to the outside of the right leg. Right hand comes to the right hip. And giving yourself that little rotation. Maybe the right fingertips reach back. Maybe not. And then all the way back through your high lunge, bringing the feet down. And this time we're going to pivot on the back knee. So your back leg is going to come out like a little kickstand. I'm going to bring this foot further, a little bit further forward. And the heel is in line with this knee. These toes, the Left toes can totally be curled under. And from here, I'm going to take my right hand, put it on my knee or my thigh, and just come in and out. Don't be coming as far as feels good. Yeah. Call this the Captain Morgan. And then coming back to stillness, knees just about over the ankle. I'm going to keep this arm here, sweep the left arm forward and up. And take a couple big circles. And maybe your arm's straight or maybe you bend it. So see what's going to feel good. And your gaze can follow your fingers. Your gaze can be down, your gaze can be to the side or up. And then meeting with the left arm out to the side, we're going to come all the way over. Left hand's going to plant on the ground or on a book if the ground feels far away. Straighten out that right leg. Now ground that right foot so the toes, doesn't really matter the angle as long as the whole foot can be on the ground. I'm going to take my right hand to my right hip and then use my sitting muscle. So use your glutes to push your hips forward a little bit. You want lots of length in the side body and then sweeping that right arm overhead. Notice if your neck is crunched up. Notice if your jaw is locked. And then again, maybe some circles. Sweeping that arm back so it's reaching out over the extended leg. And then without pushing off on the ground, trying to come up. And then bring in the right hand down, left arm up, straight up towards the ceiling. And then maybe starting to slide that hand down the leg. This is Peanut. She's a pretty girl. And then coming back through the center, draw this leg in. And we'll take the left leg out. So again, I'm going to crawl these toes a little far forward, so my knee's behind my ankle because we're going to be leaning over. Heel is in line with the knee. I'm going to take my forearm, place it on my thigh. I'm just kind of coming in and out. And we're not really trying, we're trying not to collapse on this side. It's relaxed, but there's still a little bit of length. The next time we're leaning over, let's meet there. Sweep this arm forward and taking it in circles. And again, where does your gaze want to go? Following that hand. Next time the arm is extended out, let's meet there together. Start to straighten that leg. Right hand's going to come down. So maybe you're on the fingertips. That is actually helpful to me to not put a lot of weight in the arm and not collapse into my shoulder. You ground this foot. Any angle of the toes is fine. Just make sure your whole foot's on the ground. Take the left hand to the hips, just so we can see, because a tendency a lot of times is to come back. So you can engage your glutes and push your hips forward. Top arm comes up, reaches overhead. And then again, maybe some circles here. And your head turns wherever it feels comfortable. We're reaching the arm towards that extended foot, using your side body to come up. Left hand to the left leg, right arm reaches straight up. So feeling that long line all the way from your knee, up your side body, to the tips of your fingers. Keeping that length, arcing over. Nice big stretch. And then coming back through the center. Let's draw this knee in. And then your choice, either come to sit by crossing the ankles and rolling over the ankles. I think I said too many words there. Or just swinging the ankles to the side and coming to sit. Again, you can sit up on your blanket, on your pillow if you like. Finding a nice tall spine. And then maybe letting the eyes close and just directing your attention again to your hips and your shoulders. Notice if they feel a little warm, a little tingly. Notice your breath. You know, this was very gentle, but sometimes we need to be gentle with ourselves. And then bringing the soles of the feet together, knees come out to the sides. If you feel pinching or pulling in your knees here, grab some pillows, grab a blanket, give yourself a little bit of support. And we're gonna rock side to side. So feeling one sit bone and then the other sit bone. So your sit bones are your ischial tuberosities. They are two bony points at the bottom of your pelvis. Then rooting them into the ground, maybe wiggling a little bit. Taking the hands somewhere comfortable. So it might be the knees or the shins or the ankles. And then you're using a little bit of your arm strength. So we're gonna sit up really tall and then bringing the chest forward. Maybe the gaze turns up. So you feel your shoulder blades coming together. You might feel a stretch across the chest. And if you bring the head up, you might feel a stretch in the throat. And then doing the opposite and rounding. So we have the arms for support. And hanging back as far as you like. Chin comes down towards the chest. Like you're trying to pull your shoulder blades apart. You're trying to pull your shoulders in the front together. And we'll do that a couple more times. So arcing the back, lifting the chest, pulling the shoulder blades together in the back, maybe lifting the head. And then reversing that. One more time. I don't know if I'm at how much time we have left. I did not put my Fitbit on this morning. So from here, let's come down on our backs. We're drawing the knees in towards the chest, maybe you cross at the ankles if that feels comfortable. And one hand on each knee. And we'll just stir that around. Inviting the jaw to soften, maybe inviting the chin down towards the chest and bringing some length into the back of the neck. Making sure we go in both directions. And then placing the left foot on the ground, right ankle crosses over the thigh. And we're gonna ask this right knee to come forward. So this is how my legs naturally are. And I'm just gonna use the muscles in my legs and in my hip to push my leg out. And then invite it back in. And maybe even exaggerate that and bring it closer if you're trying to bring it to the left side of your body. And then opening back up and coming back in. And coming back to neutral, bringing the arms out any way that you have room. So maybe it's a goalpost, or maybe it's the letter T, or maybe the arms stay on your body. I'm gonna keep my arms on my body. I'm pretty close to my radiator. And then let the knees fall over towards the left. So as you come over, noticing that right shoulder, you want to be able to keep it down. And if this is too much, we can uncross the legs and stack them. Or you could tangle the legs more if you want a little deeper stretch. Or even take the left hand to the top of the right thigh and weight it down. Maybe your head stays neutral, looking up. Maybe you turn the direction of the knees, or maybe you turn the opposite direction of your knees if your neck says that's okay. Notice your breath here. Eventually coming back through the center, uncrossing, crossing the other way. And then same thing, inviting that knee forward, and then inviting it in and over towards the right. And doing that a couple times. And just noticing what you feel. And where in your body you feel it. coming back to just a neutral place, finding where your hands want to be, and then letting the legs come over towards the right. You can adjust the feet any way you need. You can uncross your legs. You could cross them more. Make this whatever's going to serve you. We're going to try to keep that left shoulder on the ground. Maybe you weight that top leg down, or maybe that's not appropriate on this side. See what feels good. And see where you'd like to turn your head. And taking a couple breaths here. Bringing the legs back through the center, uncrossing them. And I'm just going to offer, for a restorative pose, a couple options. Well, infinite options, but a couple options that I'm going to offer. One is, if you want a pillow underneath your head and neck, you're welcome to do that, or your blanket. You could use that for warmth, or you could use that to support you. I'm going to say if I took my whole setup and I brought my knees over, I could come down on my back. And rest my hands anywhere it's going to be comfortable. So that's one option. Another option, which I love, is legs up the wall. So I would take my blanket and place it really close to the wall. Actually, I haven't tried this here, so I might bump into things. But bringing one hip pretty close to the wall. Hands are going to come behind you. And I'm flipping the body so the legs can extend up the wall. And then you decide if you need something underneath the head or the neck, or perhaps that blanket underneath your hips doesn't feel good and you want to take it out. You're always welcome to bring the legs as wide apart as you like, or keep them as close together as you like. So picking what's going to feel good for you and settling in. And as we find our, as I shift around, as we find our final pose, taking a couple moments, maybe bringing the hands to the ribs, or placing one hand on the abdomen and one hand on the belly. And returning your awareness to your breath. And taking as long as you like to inhale, feeling the front of the ribs, sides of the ribs, maybe feeling your back press into the floor and maybe lift you up a tiny bit. And then feeling that drawing in and settling on the exhale. And you can take as long a time as you need to inhale and as long a time as you need to exhale. And the longer you take, as long as it doesn't feel forced, the more that signals to your body to come out of that fight or flight response, that sympathetic nervous system, and into rest and digest with the parasympathetic nervous system. And having the knees bent, or having like the legs up the wall, the very way that the big leg bones fit into the hip sockets there, the way they're setting in there, signals to your body that you're safe and it's okay to soften and relax. So I'm going to leave you here. You can stay as long as you like. And if you feel your mind starting to wander, you are always welcome to bring your awareness back to your breath and just follow it. So enjoy, and thank you so much for joining me for this practice. And I'll see you again soon. Namaste.